Hey, my name is Jamey Arent, and today I'm going to show you how to play over a 2-5-1 chord progression. Alright, so what is a 2-5-1 progression? Well, before getting into the theory of it, the 2-5-1 is a very common chord progression heard in jazz as well as a lot of other styles of music, a lot of pop, rock, you hear it in Beatles and Stevie Wonder music as well. And we're going to look at a way to get your lines to reflect the sound of the 2-5-1 progression. So when you play over the chord changes, the melodies that you're improvising actually have the sound of the chord progression in them. All right, so first let's talk about the theory. What is a 2-5-1 chord progression? Well, if we take a C major scale and we harmonize that C major scale in thirds, if we build the chords, we get this diatonic series of chords. These are all the chords that occur naturally in the key of C major. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5. And then of course we're back up to C major 7. So the 2-5-1 is just taking the 2 chord, the second chord, D minor 7, going to the 5 chord, G7, going to the 1 chord, C major 7. And I like to think of the 2-5-1 as a bit of a story, like a novel or a movie. The 2 chord sets up the plot, the 5 chord is the point of tension, and the 1 chord is back home. It's the ending, it's the happy ending. It takes us back home, 1, the tonic chord of the key. So our chords are D minor 7, the 2 chord, G7, the 5 chord, and C major 7, the 1 chord. So I know that a C major scale will work over all these chords because all these chords are in the family of C, and so all these notes will work. So here's what it sounds like if I just play the C major scale over these chords. All right, so nothing that I played there sounded out of place or wrong. All those notes worked perfectly against the sound of the 2-5-1 in the key of C. But if you took away this little backing track from my little looper here, you'd have no idea what chords I'm playing over because my single note lines don't reflect the sound of the chords. So let's do that now. So what we're going to do is arpeggiate each chord. So for D minor 7, this is going to be our arpeggio. That's D the root, F the flatted third, A the 5th, and C the flatted 7th. Those are the chord tones of the D minor 7 chord. So for the 5 chord, G7, we're going to do the same thing. Here's G the root, B the 3rd, D the 5th, and F the flatted 7. So we have the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and for the 1 chord, we'll do C the root, E the 3rd, G the 5th, and we'll reach up here for B the 7th. So even without the backing track, you can hear the sound of the chords reflected in what I'm playing. Here's how it sounds with the chords. So you're getting the sound of the chords, but this is a bit predictable, right? It's the same formula, the 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the chord. It checks the box of playing over the changes, but it doesn't quite sound like music yet. So what if we go up the D minor 7 arpeggio, and now we're going to look for the closest chord tone of G7 to this C that we finished off. Because before, we're dropping all the way down to this G down here. It sounds a bit disjointed. So if we play this D minor 7 arpeggio, what's the closest chord tone of G7 to this C? Well, how about the B that's the 3rd of G7? So we'll go up D minor 7, just slide down with your pinky to this B, and we'll walk down the notes of a G7 arpeggio up in this octave. So we'll have the D minor 7 arpeggio, and then B, that's the 3rd of our G7, G the root, F the flat 7, and D the 5th. And then this D resolves nicely to C, the root of our 1 chord, and we'll play our C major 7 arpeggio. So here's the line slow. And here it is with the backing track. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now it sounds a little more musical, right? Not as predictable as... But there's one more thing that we're going to do to make this sound a little more interesting, and that's adding the flat 9 on the G7 chord. So here's a G7. If we add the flat 9, A flat, we get this chord. We can think of that from the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same thing as 2, but if it's above a 7th chord, we'll call it 9. Take it down a half step. That's your flat 9. So when we put that chord in a 2-5-1, it creates a nice bit of tension because the 5 chord is the point that we really want to get that tension. So when we resolve back to 1, it sounds more final. Because listen how it sounds if I just ended on the 5 chord. Thank you, folks. Good night. No, it doesn't sound good like that. This chord clearly wants to go here because this A flat is not part of the key of C. We're borrowing this note, the flat 9, from outside of the key. It's creating some more tension that way. That way, when we get back to our C major 7, it's going to sound a lot more final. So here's our line. So we'll go up our D minor 7 arpeggio, just as we've been doing. And then we're going to go to the B, the 3rd of G7. But now we're going to hit the A flat, the flat 9. And then the G, which is the root of the G7 chord, then the F, which is the flat 7, and that F resolves nicely to E, which is the 3rd of C major 7. Now that sounds a little more like something that's interesting to listen to and part of the jazz language. Once again, those notes, we'll go up the D minor 7 arpeggio, and then we'll go to B, the 3rd of G, A flat, that's the flat 9, G, the root of G7, F, the flat 7, and that resolves nicely to the E, that's the 3rd of C major 7. So here's how it sounds with the backing track. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. All right, let's take a look at one more line that's similar to that, just a little bit of a variation. We're going to go down the D minor 7 arpeggio starting from the 5th. So we'll do A, the 5th of D minor 7, F, the flatted 3rd, D, the root, C, the flat 7. Then we'll slide down to the 3rd of G7, B, A flat, the flat 9, G's the root, F, the flat 7, and then we'll go into an E, that's the 3rd of C major 7. So that line slowly. 2, 3, 4. And here it is with the track. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So go ahead and take these lines and try putting them into your playing. Try them in different keys. You can try them over standards, over blues progressions, and they'll really give you a sense of the sound of the 2-5-1 chord progression, so you can start coming up with new lines and transcribe and learn other 2-5-1 lines from the jazz improvising greats. I hope this lesson was helpful. Thanks for watching.